Minecraft mob votes, the closest thing we'll ever have to true democracy in Minecraft. But sometimes, democracy kind of sucks, and this is one of those cases. If you somehow don't know what the mob vote is, it's basically an event held during Minecon where you can vote between 3 different mobs to be added to Minecraft, and whichever idea gets the most amount of votes will be added. Sounds cool, doesn't it? Well, not really. In this video, I'm gonna explain why I personally don't like the mob votes, but before I do, if you end up enjoying this video, like and subscribe, and let's get on with it.
Ah, termites, the way they snack on decomposing plants, just adorable.
So the main reason why I don't like the mob votes is because I'm a salty 9-year-old and my choices never win. I wanted the epic isolager, and I lost to a stupid glowing squid. I wanted the Chad copper golem, and I lost to a flying rat. And then this year I wanted my best friend the rascal to win, and I lost to Yoshi's fat hairy uncle. Now in all seriousness, I don't really care which choice wins, because usually I think all 3 choices are great, especially this year, but that's where my first problem comes in. One thing that we all collectively hate is when Mojang shows off something really cool, like for example, the birch forest changes, and then not adding them to the game. Well, the mob vote is basically that. They show off 3 really cool mob ideas and then only add one of them into the game, leaving the other 2 in the dark. What's ironic is that Lady Agnes made it clear during this year's Minecraft Live that when they show off something new, they know that they're creating dreams and ideas for people who want those things to be added. And so when they show off something and it doesn't get added, they know that they're crushing those dreams. That's why this year they showed off very little for 1.20, which I think was a smart decision, and I made a whole video discussing this, check it out if you want. But I don't think Mojang realizes that they're also doing this with the mob votes. You're showing off ideas that people would love to see, but whether those ideas get added or not depends on how many people want it. So even if most of the community wants the same thing, there are still people out there who would have wanted the other 2 options. Now the devs have stated that the losing mobs will be considered for future updates, but when or if they will be added is completely unknown. Some of the more popular choices like the isolager or the copper golem might be added since Mojang does care enough to add things that a lot of us want. But the issue with features like these is that they exist in the same realm as things like archaeology, the fletching table functionality, bundles, and the new and improved combat mechanics. And by that I mean they're basically features that will show up to the game eventually. Even though I said the losing mobs will be considered for future updates, this unfortunately isn't the case for the 2017 vote. It was stated by Jeb that the losing mobs from 2017 will never be added, and this is indeed unfortunate, because the 2017 mob vote was probably the best one so far, at least in my opinion. Overall, the issue here is that you're hyping up so much of the community just to disappoint a good portion of it. In other words, you're killing our dreams, and that's not nice. The funny thing is that it's not just people whose choices lost to end up disappointed, because there have also been years where everyone was disappointed at the end of the day, including the people whose choices won. And this brings me into my second problem with the mob vote.
Watch your step. The snow is snowier than before.
Another issue with the mob votes is that they don't tell us enough about each mob. The trailers give us a basic description of each mob, but they leave out so many details that could be very vital to know. Like literally if they told us one extra thing about one of the mobs, it could have a massive effect on the entire vote. This year is a good example of that. The sniffer they tell us will give you new ancient types of plants, but whether these plants are just for decoration or have an actual use is not something that was made very clear. I know a lot of people don't really care about that, but it would still be nice to know. The rascal they stated would give you a reward if you find it 3 times, but they only showed one example of what it could give you, and it was never really stated what kind of loot it will offer or even if it will give you new items. The tough golem, I think they told us everything there is to know, but then again we don't really know that for sure. What if there were other things that it could do but they didn't tell us? We'll never know unless it gets added. It wasn't just this vote, because there's stuff to say about the last 2 as well. The glare we know will move to spots that are dark, but where it spawns wasn't made clear, and whether it had any other uses was also unknown. Jeb did mention during Minecraft Live last year that it may be able to create its own light source, but by that point it was too late. The allay we probably got the most amount of info on, but there are still things that were left out like where it will spawn or if it has the power to duplicate items or open chests. But because it won the vote, we know the answers to those questions now. However, we didn't get those answers until it was actually added. The copper golem we know will push copper buttons which can be used with redstone, and they will oxidize like any copper block would, but not enough details were given about their functionality or how they would operate. If you think that's bad, they hardly gave us any details about the 2020 mobs. All we knew about the Mooblin was that it would be friends with bees and that would spawn in flower forests. All we knew about the isolager was that it was a hostile mob and that would spawn in mountains. All we knew about the glow squid was that it glowed. Literally that's it. But they also mentioned that it would spawn in deep oceans. Nothing was said about how these mobs will function, aside from the Isolager, but since it's a hostile mob that's pretty self-explanatory. And nothing was said about what these mobs will drop or what they're useful for. As we know, the Gold Squid won, and now that it's in the game, we know that it drops gold ink sacs which can be used to make glowing signs and glow item frames, and that it spawns in cave aquifers. You may have noticed that the spawning conditions changed, but they probably just hid the actual spawning conditions to avoid spoiling the Caves and Cliffs update, so that I can let go. But everything else about the Gold Squid would have been nice to know before voting for it. The reason this is such an issue is because it basically turns the mob votes into a mob gamble, which basically means you just have to hope the winning mob isn't a disappointment. This was made pretty clear in the 2017 vote where the winner was the Phantom. People voted for it because it seemed like the coolest idea and concept, but as of now it's become one of the most hated mobs in the game. This was also the case in the 2020 vote when the Gold Squid won, but to be fair, we all know why that happened. I've seen some of the devs say that they don't have the mobs fully figured out when they first show them off, and so that's why they don't reveal everything about them, because they're still not entirely sure themselves. But this feels like an issue that they could easily fix by just planning out these mobs better. Like before you show off the mobs, just know what exactly they're going to do and what they can offer.
Bees and moo blooms are friends, just like we are, right, Agnes?
These friendly cows.
There's one final problem I have with the mob vote, and that problem is simply that it divides the community and creates pointless drama. I know some people are going to argue that it's the good kind of drama, but the way I see it, good drama is something that we laugh at like Andrew Tate, Nikocado Avocado, the vegan teacher, or literally anyone on Twitter. This isn't anything like that. All this does is turn the Minecraft community into a political war zone, and this is especially prevalent on Twitter. Not only will there be tons of pointless arguments, but people will get harassed or maybe even attacked for having a different opinion. Now I'll admit, stuff like this happens with or without the votes, but it's ironic that Mojang would try and create this kind of atmosphere when they're the ones who want to have a positive environment. In summary, I don't like the mob votes because they don't tell us enough about each mob, you leave a good portion of the community disappointed, which is the last thing Mojang should be trying to do, and it just pointlessly divides people. I understand the point of the mob vote is to allow the community to decide what Minecraft will add next, but that's not really what's going on here, because only a certain portion of the community actually chose the idea that won, while everyone else made a decision that didn't make the cut. There are a few solutions that could be done here. The most obvious solution would be to just get rid of the mob votes entirely, and instead just add all 3 mobs into one update. Now this is something that one of the developers, Kimmy Dogs, actually responded to, and he said that adding all 3 choices would take a lot of time to do. And I'm not going to try and argue otherwise because I'm not a game developer, and I understand that these things take time to do. But there are 2 simple solutions to this problem. One would be to just start working on these features at the same time as everything else in the update, and I mean like way before Minecraft Live. And the other would be to just hire more developers if they can't add enough into one single update. If Mojang wants us to decide what Minecraft should do next, then I have another solution for that. How about letting us decide what the next update will be? After the most recent update comes out, Mojang can release a poll listing 3 possible update ideas and the kind of features these updates would include. They could give us about a week to decide or vote, and once Minecraft Live happens, they can reveal who the winner is and show off what they've done so far. And to prevent people from being disappointed if their choice loses, bring back the losing ideas in the next vote, along with one new idea. This I think would actually be a really great idea, but let's say Mojang wants to keep the mob votes. Well, there is another solution that could work as well, and that would be to just add the losing features in the following updates. Like I said before, Mojang have stated that the losing ideas will be considered for future updates, but instead of just quote-unquote considering them and waiting for God who knows how long to add them, how about this? Add the winner in the next update, add the second place mob in the update after, and then add the last place mob in the update after that. Let's use this year as an example. The sniffer will be added at 1.20 since it won the vote, so how about adding the rascal in 1.21 since it came in second place, and then adding the tough golem in 1.22 since it came dead last. That wouldn't exactly take away the issue of drama, but people will be less disappointed if their choice is lost knowing that the following update will add what they wanted. Heck, this update has a chance to start that. In last year's vote, the LA won, and the copper golem came in second, so how about adding the copper golem in this update, and then adding the glare in 1.21 since it came last. It actually looks like the 2019 biome vote is going in that direction. The mountains won that year, and they were updated in 1.18, and the swamp came in second place, which got updated in 1.19. So maybe this year they could add the Badlands feature since they were last placed that year. And just like that, everything from 2019 would be in the game. Speaking of the biome votes, I haven't actually mentioned them at all in this video, and the reason for that is because they're not as much of an issue as the mob votes, which is weird since they're basically the same thing. So what gives? Well, I think the difference between the biome votes and the mob votes is that the losing biomes Mojang actually plan on updating in the future. There isn't a specific time they plan on updating them, but unlike the losing mobs, the losing biomes it seems they're actually committed to updating. Another reason would be that the biome votes focus on adding real world things, while the mob votes are focused on adding a single unique mob to the update. Why does that matter? Well, it's hard to explain, but I guess it's easier to become attached to a fictional idea like the sniffer or copper golem than a full-on real-world biome like the swamp or desert. Along with adding the losing choices in the following updates, another solution that I've already mentioned would be to give us as much details on each mob as possible, tell us everything that the mobs are useful for, tell us exactly where we can find them, and tell us if they have any drops to make them worth going after. If the point of the mob votes is to let us decide what Minecraft should add next, then it makes perfect sense to let us know everything there is to know about what we're voting on. Now I will mention that Mojang have made improvements to the mob votes ever since they were introduced. In 2017, all we saw was concept art and nothing more, and they didn't even give us the names of each mob. This is something that they quickly changed. Now we actually know the names of all the mobs, and what they'll look like in the final cut. In previous years, the votes would be held on Twitter, and only Twitter. This was an issue for two reasons. The first issue is because not everyone uses Twitter, and it would probably be best if no one did. The second reason is because of the possibility that someone with a big following will try to rig the vote in their favor, and this first became a concern in 2020. This year, the vote wasn't held on Twitter, and instead was held in multiple different places, which include Minecraft.net, the Minecraft launcher, and a special server on the Bedrock edition. This allowed for more people to be able to vote. If you don't have a PC and you're not over 25, then this game is not a must-have, and also you won't be able to vote through the Minecraft launcher. But don't worry, you still have two other places to vote. The only true risk now is that someone might hack the Bedrock server, which is something that has happened, but Mojang could probably fix that issue, and like I said, you still have two other places to vote. Another issue with the votes was that the only opportunity you had to vote was during Minecraft Live, and this was a problem because not everyone will have the opportunity to watch the event. Imagine you went somewhere with your friends and family during the event, or imagine living in a time zone where the event is taking place while you're asleep. Fortunately, Mojang fixed this issue by giving people 24 hours to cast their vote, and this I think was probably the best decision to make.
It's alive! Oh!
Despite everything I just mentioned, there are still massive problems with the mob vote, but if Mojang were to do the things that I talked about earlier, then it would improve the mob vote drastically. However, I'm still not against the idea of just getting rid of it entirely, because it's probably better if Mojang are the ones who choose what gets added to Minecraft since they know the game better than the rest of us. But if they really want us to decide what's next for Minecraft, then I think letting us decide the next update is a better idea. Do you like the mob vote? Do you agree with what I had to say in this video? Or do you disagree? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. But yeah, that's about it for this video. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more stuff from me, like and subscribe, and turn on the bell to be notified when I upload a new video. I would very much appreciate it. Alright, now get lost.